The scent of bitter herbs and burnt sage permeated the air of my cramped chamber, making my eyes water. Outside, rain lashed against the windows like desperate fingers trying to get in. I sat motionless before a bronze mirror, watching as my handmaiden, Clara, wove white lilies into my pale blonde hair, a futile attempt to beautify what everyone deemed beyond salvation. "Keep still, Lady Elise," she whispered, her fingers trembling slightly. "The ceremony begins at sundown." Sundown. When I would be presented to the Alpha King as his political bride, a treaty offering from my father, the human ambassador, to secure peace between our realms. A sacrifice wrapped in white silk. I fingered the small silver locket hanging at my throat, my mother's final gift before she died. Inside was a tiny pressed violet, her favorite flower. "Beauty lies deeper than skin," she used to say, stroking my hair. "Remember that when the world tries to convince you otherwise." The irony of her words stung now more than ever. The servants whispered when they thought I couldn't hear. Poor Alpha King, forced to wed such a creature. They say her face would make even a gargoyle weep. Political necessity makes strange bedfellows indeed. I hadn't always been this way. Before the fire that consumed our country estate 3 years ago, I had been considered passably pretty, if unremarkable. Now, half my face bore the legacy of that night, rippled skin stretched tight over bone. One eye permanently narrowed. The physical pain had long since faded. The whispers hadn't. "They're gathering in the Great Hall," Clara said, adjusting the heavy veil that would mercifully hide my face until the final moment of the ceremony. "The Alpha King has returned from the Northern Territories with his royal guard." My heart fluttered like a trapped bird. I'd never even seen my husband-to-be, though tales of his ferocity in battle and cold demeanor had reached even my isolated tower. King Nathaniel Devereux, ruler of the strongest werewolf pack in the Western Territories, unmated at 35, and reportedly as beautiful as he was, deadly. "What if he rejects me on sight?" I whispered, voicing my deepest fear. "The treaty is signed," Clara replied pragmatically, "and the Alpha King honors his word, if nothing else." A sharp knock interrupted us. My father entered without waiting for a response, his diplomat's mask firmly in place. The silver streaks in his hair seemed to have multiplied since I'd seen him last week. "It's time, Elise." His eyes darted everywhere but at my face. "The carriage awaits." I rose on unsteady legs, the elaborate white dress weighing me down like armor. The veil descended over my face, transforming me into a ghost bride. Through its gauzy filter, the world appeared dreamlike, unreal. "Father," I said, catching his sleeve as he turned to go. "Why did you choose me for this? Surely Sophie would have— Your sister is needed elsewhere." He cut in sharply. Then more gently, "The Alpha King requested someone with diplomatic training. Your appearance is unfortunate but secondary to your skills." A convenient rationalization. My younger sister Sophie was the family beauty, already promised to a human nobleman. I was the damaged one, expendable yet useful. I nodded once and followed him out. The journey to the Great Hall passed in a blur of rain-slicked cobblestones and whispered commentary. Guards lined our path, their eyes curious beneath ceremonial helmets. The veil protected me from their scrutiny, creating an illusion of dignity I desperately clung to. The Great Hall loomed before us, an ancient stone structure with massive wooden doors carved with wolves in various poses. Hunting, howling, watching. My father squeezed my hand once before the doors swung open, releasing a wave of heat, light, and the murmur of hundreds of voices. "The human ambassador and Lady Elise Winterbourne," announced a deep voice. The hall fell silent. I kept my gaze fixed on the intricate stone floor as we processed down a long aisle. Werewolves and humans alike stood on either side, their collective judgment pressing against me like a physical weight. "Head up," my father muttered. "Remember who you are." But who was I? A diplomatic pawn? A scarred offering? A duty-bound daughter? The silver locket seemed to grow warmer against my skin, reminding me of my mother's words. I straightened my spine and continued forward, one foot before the other, toward my fate. At the end of the aisle stood a dais with a stone throne. As we approached, I allowed myself to look up through the veil. And there he was, the Alpha King. The stories hadn't done him justice. Tall and broad-shouldered, With an aura of barely leashed power, Nathaniel Devereaux dominated the space around him. Dark hair fell to his shoulders, framing features that seemed carved from marble. High cheekbones, a strong jaw dusted with stubble, and eyes the color of amber. He wore formal black attire, with a blood-red cape fastened at one shoulder. A silver crown set with obsidian rested upon his head. His expression remained impassive as we approached, though his nostrils flared slightly. Scenting me, I realized with a flush of embarrassment. Alpha King. My father bowed deeply. I present my eldest daughter, Lady Elise Winterbourne, as agreed in our treaty. Those amber eyes flickered to me. Assessing what little could be seen through the veil, I forced myself to hold his gaze, though my knees threatened to buckle. Ambassador Winterbourne. The king's voice was deeper than I expected, with a slight rasp. The treaty is acknowledged. The ceremony will proceed. A silver-haired werewolf in ceremonial robes stepped forward. The pack elder, I presumed. He began speaking in the ancient language of the packs, his words meaningless to me yet weighted with significance. The assembled crowd listened in reverent silence. I stole another glance at my soon-to-be husband. His profile was severe in the flickering torchlight, giving nothing away. What was he thinking? Was he dreading the moment the veil would be lifted? Did he resent this arrangement as much as I feared? The human bride will now speak her vows, the elder announced, switching to the common tongue. Words I had memorized over countless sleepless nights now rose to my lips. I, Elise Winterbourne, pledge myself to the Alpha King and to the Northern Pack. I bring with me the goodwill of the human territories and the promise of peace between our peoples. My loyalty shall be to my husband and his pack, from this day until my last. Simple words that would reshape my entire existence. The Alpha King's vow was equally brief, but spoken in the pack language, the syllables harsh and guttural. Throughout it all, he hadn't moved an inch closer to me. The bond will now be sealed, the elder declared. Alpha King, you may claim your bride. My heart hammered against my ribs as Nathaniel finally stepped toward me. He moved with the fluid grace of a predator, each step deliberate. Up close, he was even more intimidating. I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes through the veil. His scent enveloped me, wood smoke and pine and something untamable. His hands lifted toward my veil, and time seemed to slow. In that suspended moment, I saw a flash of what might have been resignation in his eyes. He had agreed to this marriage sight unseen, just as I had. Now came the moment of truth. With one swift movement, he lifted the veil. The collective intake of breath from the assembled crowd was audible in the sudden silence. I stood exposed, the scarred half of my face clearly visible in the merciless torchlight. I forced myself not to flinch, not to cower, though shame burned through me like wildfire. I expected disgust, perhaps pity. What I didn't expect was the Alpha King's reaction. He stood frozen, amber eyes widened slightly, lips parted on an indrawn breath. For endless seconds, he simply stared at me, his expression unreadable, yet somehow intense. The hall around us seemed to fade away, until there was nothing but his gaze holding mine. Then his hand lifted slowly toward my face, toward the scarred side. I couldn't help it. I flinched away slightly, a lifetime of hiding that part of me impossible to overcome in an instant. His hand paused, hovering in the space between us. "Do not turn from me," he said, his voice so low only I could hear it. I would see all of what is now mine. The possessive words should have offended me. Instead, they sent an unexpected shiver down my spine. Slowly, his fingertips made contact with my cheek, tracing the ridged flesh with surprising gentleness. No one had willingly touched my scars since the healer who had treated them. The sensation was strange, almost electric. "The Alpha King accepts his bride," he announced suddenly, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall. "Let it be known that any who question this union question me directly." The threat in his words was unmistakable. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Then, without warning, he leaned down and pressed his lips to mine. A brief, firm claim that sealed our fates. His lips were warm, slightly rough, gone before I could process what was happening. When he pulled back, something dangerous glittered in his eyes. A challenge, a warning, I couldn't tell which. But one thing was certain. This was not the reaction anyone had expected, least of all me. "The ceremony is complete," the elder declared. "Long live Alpha King Nathaniel and his Queen Elise." The crowd's response was hesitant at first, then growing stronger. "Long live the Alpha King and Queen." Nathaniel offered me his arm. "Come, wife," he said, the word strange on his tongue. "Our guests await." I placed my trembling hand on his forearm, feeling the solid muscle beneath fine fabric. As he led me back down the aisle, whispers followed in our wake, but his presence beside me seemed to form a shield against them. What game was he playing? Why had he reacted so unexpectedly? And what would happen when we were alone, away from the watching eyes of the court? As we reached the massive doors, he leaned down slightly to speak in my ear, his breath warm against my skin. "You and I have much to discuss, little human," he murmured. "This night has only just begun." The feast that followed the ceremony was an elaborate affair held in a cavernous dining hall. Massive tables groaned under the weight of roasted meats and exotic fruits, while musicians played haunting melodies that echoed against stone walls. I sat beside Nathaniel at the head table, aware of the countless eyes that flickered toward us when they thought we wouldn't notice. "Eat," Nathaniel commanded, placing a slice of venison on my plate. "You'll need your strength." The implication behind his words made heat rise to my cheeks. I took a small bite, though my appetite had vanished the moment we entered the hall. The food was rich and flavorful, but might as well have been ash in my mouth. "They're all watching us," I whispered, keeping my face carefully neutral. "Let them watch," he replied, taking a long drink from his goblet. "They will learn to accept what cannot be changed." I studied him from the corner of my eye. Up close, I could see faint scars that marked his forearms and the side of his neck, battle wounds, no doubt. He ate with the efficiency of a soldier, his movements precise and controlled. Nothing about him suggested the cruelty I had feared, yet neither did he show warmth. "Why did you agree to this arrangement?" I asked suddenly, unable to contain my curiosity any longer. "Surely you could have chosen any woman from your pack." His amber eyes settled on me, assessing. "Politics and necessity," he answered, his voice low. "The same reasons your father offered you." Before I could respond, a tall werewolf with russet hair approached our table and bowed deeply. "My king, my queen," he said, his gaze lingering on me with undisguised curiosity. "May I offer my congratulations on behalf of the border guards?" "Commander Thorne," Nathaniel acknowledged him with a slight nod. "My wife, Elise. Thorne serves as my right hand in military matters," he explained to me. I inclined my head politely. "Commander." "The Queen's scent is unusual," Thorne remarked, his nostrils flaring slightly. "I detect something beyond the typical human fragrance." I tensed, unsure if this was an insult or merely an observation. "My wife's scent is not a topic for public discussion," Nathaniel replied, an edge creeping into his voice. "See to the Eastern Perimeter reports. I'll review them tomorrow." Thorne's dismissal was clear. He bowed again and retreated, though his eyes remained fixed on me for a moment too long. "What did he mean?" I asked once he was out of earshot. Nathaniel considered me for a moment. "Werewolves have sensitive noses. Each person has a unique scent signature. Yours is complex." "Is that unusual for humans?" "Yes." He offered nothing more, turning his attention back to his meal. As the night progressed, various pack members approached to pay respects, each interaction following a similar pattern. Curiosity about me barely concealed beneath formal congratulations. A group of women who could only be high-ranking females within the pack hierarchy observed me from across the hall, their expressions ranging from open hostility to wary assessment. "Those are the unmated females who had hoped to catch my attention," Nathaniel murmured, following my gaze. "Their disappointment will fade with time." "I've stolen quite a prize, it seems," I remarked dryly. To my surprise, the corner of his mouth twitched slightly, almost a smile. "Indeed you have, little human." The endearment, if it could be called that, confused me further. Throughout the evening, his behavior remained a contradiction, distant yet protective, formal yet occasionally intimate in his choice of words. My father approached as the feast began to wind down, his diplomatic smile firmly in place, though his eyes betrayed his anxiety. "Alpha King," he bowed, "I must depart in the morning. May I have a moment with my daughter to say farewell?" Nathaniel studied him with that same inscrutable expression. "Of course," he said finally. "But remember, Ambassador, she belongs to the pack now." My father nodded stiffly and led me to a small alcove near one of the massive fireplaces. Away from Nathaniel's imposing presence, he seemed to deflate slightly. "Are you all right?" he asked in a low voice. "Has he treated you well thus far?" "He's been unexpectedly civil," I admitted, though I don't understand why he didn't react with disgust when he saw me. My father frowned slightly. "Perhaps werewolves view scars differently than humans do. Battle scars are considered honorable among their kind." "These aren't battle scars," I reminded him bitterly. "They're the result of being too slow to escape a burning building." He flinched at the reference to that night. We rarely spoke of the fire that had claimed my mother's life and left me permanently marked. My survival had been deemed miraculous by the healers, though there were days I wondered if surviving had been a blessing or a curse. "Elise," he said, taking my hands in his. "I know you believe I sent you here as a sacrifice, but that isn't the entire truth." He glanced over his shoulder to ensure we weren't overheard. "There have been incidents in the border villages, humans found dead, their throats torn out. The treaty was necessary to prevent all-out war." Cold dread settled in my stomach. "And I'm the guarantee that keeps the peace?" "You're the bridge between our peoples," he corrected. "Your diplomatic training, your intellect, these are the reasons I chose you. Not because you were," he faltered, "expendable." I finished for him. Pain flashed across his face. "Never that. Your mother would have never forgiven me if she thought that." He squeezed my hands once more. "The silver locket. You still wear it?" I nodded, touching the small pendant through the fabric of my gown. "Keep it close," he advised, "and remember what she taught you about finding strength in unexpected places." Before I could question him further, a shadow fell across us. Nathaniel stood a few paces away, his expression impassive once more. "The hour grows late," he stated. "I must take my bride to our chambers." My father straightened, resuming his role as ambassador. "Of course, Alpha King. I've said my farewells." He kissed my forehead, a gesture he hadn't made since I was a child, and whispered, "Courage, Elise." Then he was gone, swallowed by the crowd, leaving me alone with my new husband and the looming reality of what was to come. Nathaniel offered his arm once more. "Come," he said simply. The journey through the castle was a winding one. We ascended spiral staircases and traversed long corridors lined with ancient tapestries depicting werewolf history, hunts and battles and coronations. Guards posted at intervals bowed as we passed, their eyes carefully averted. "This wing belongs exclusively to the royal family," Nathaniel explained, as we entered a corridor of polished stone. "No one enters without my express permission." "Not even Commander Thorne?" I asked, remembering the way the russet-haired werewolf had looked at me. "Especially not Thorne," he replied, something hard entering his voice. We stopped before an ornately carved door. Intricate wolves chased each other across the dark wood, their eyes inlaid with amber stone that caught the light of the wall sconces. Nathaniel pushed the door open and gestured for me to enter first. The royal chambers were massive, larger than my entire suite in my father's manor. A giant four-poster bed dominated one wall, draped with furs and deep red fabrics. A sitting area with comfortable chairs faced a roaring fireplace, while tall windows overlooked the forested mountains beyond the castle walls. Every surface spoke of luxury, though the overall effect was masculine and somewhat austere. The door closed behind us with a soft click that somehow sounded like finality. I stood in the center of the room, suddenly acutely aware that we were truly alone for the first time. The brave facade I had maintained throughout the evening threatened to crumble. What did he expect of me now? What duty would I be required to perform as his queen? Nathaniel moved past me toward a side table that held a crystal decanter. He poured amber liquid into 2 glasses and offered one to me. "For your nerves," he said. I accepted the glass, our fingers brushing momentarily. The liquid burned a path down my throat, spreading warmth through my chest. "I won't force myself on you," he said abruptly. My head snapped up in surprise. "The treaty requires a marriage, not a mating," he continued, his voice matter-of-fact. "The distinction is important to my kind." Relief and confusion warred within me. "I don't understand." He moved toward the fireplace, staring into the flames. "Marriage is a human construct, a political and social arrangement. Mating is different. It's—" He hesitated. "Permanent. Sacred, not something to be rushed or forced." "Then why react as you did during the ceremony?" I asked, remembering his frozen stance, his unexpected touch. "Why touch my scars?" He turned to face me, his amber eyes reflecting the firelight. "You believe I was forcing myself to accept your appearance?" Put so bluntly, I flinched. "Weren't you?" Something dangerous flashed across his features. In 3 long strides, he stood before me again, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his gaze. Slowly, deliberately, he lifted his hand to my face again. This time I didn't pull away as his fingers traced the pattern of scarred tissue from my temple down to my jaw. "These marks," he said softly, "tell me you are a survivor. Fire is one of the few things my kind truly fears. It is one of the only ways to kill us permanently. Yet you endured it. You carried its mark, and still stand proud." His words stole my breath. No one had ever spoken of my scars with anything resembling admiration. "The human courtiers who called you ugly," he continued, his thumb brushing my cheekbone, "did so because they don't understand what real strength looks like. We do." "We?" "Werewolves," he clarified. "We honor those who survive against impossible odds. Your scars would never repulse my kind. If anything, they command respect." I wanted to believe him. After years of pitying glances and whispered comments, his perspective was like rainfall in a desert. But suspicion lingered. Then why keep me veiled until the last moment? Why all the secrecy surrounding my appearance? His hand fell away from my face. "That was your father's decision, not mine." Perhaps he feared my reaction would jeopardize the treaty. A hard smile touched his lips. "He doesn't understand werewolves as well as he believes." He moved away, creating distance between us once more. "You should rest. Your chambers adjoin mine, through that door." He gestured to a smaller door set into the wall beside the massive wardrobe. "Your things have been arranged there. We'll begin your integration into pack life tomorrow." The abrupt change of subject left me reeling. One moment he'd been touching my face with near tenderness, the next dismissing me to separate quarters. Relief mingled with an unexpected twinge of disappointment. "Will I have duties as queen?" I asked, trying to understand my place in this new world. "Many," he confirmed. "The pack will expect you to take an active role in court matters. Your diplomatic training will be useful." He paused. "And you will need to learn our ways, our history, our hierarchy. It won't be easy." "I'm not afraid of difficulty, no," he agreed, studying me again with that intense gaze. "I don't believe you are." A strange moment stretched between us. Not quite tension, not quite comfort. Then he moved toward the main door. "I have matters to attend to before I retire." "Make yourself comfortable. No one will disturb you here, Nathaniel," I said, testing his name on my tongue for the first time. He paused, hand on the door latch. "Thank you. For your kindness about—" I gestured vaguely toward my face. "It wasn't kindness, Elise," he replied, my name sounding different in his deep voice. "Merely truth." The door closed behind him, leaving me alone in the royal chambers with more questions than answers, and the lingering warmth of his touch on my scarred skin. Dawn arrived with pale fingers of light stretching across the stone floor of my new chambers. I had slept fitfully, dreams filled with amber eyes and burning buildings and whispered words I couldn't quite remember upon waking. The bed was luxuriously comfortable, piled high with furs and silken pillows, yet sleep had proven elusive in this strange place. I rose and moved to the window overlooking the castle grounds and the dense forest beyond. The Werewolf Kingdom was nestled in a valley surrounded by mountains, beautiful but isolated, a perfect natural fortress. A soft knock at the door connecting my chambers to Nathaniel's startled me from my contemplation. "Enter," I called, hastily wrapping a robe around my nightgown. Instead of Nathaniel, a young woman with copper-colored hair appeared, carrying a tray of food. She couldn't have been more than 16, and her eyes widened when she saw me, gaze immediately drawn to my scars before she quickly looked away. "Good morning, my queen," she said, dropping into an awkward curtsy while balancing the tray. "I'm Mira. The Alpha King assigned me to be your personal attendant." "Thank you, Mira," I replied, gesturing toward a small table near the window. "You can set it there." She placed the tray down and hovered uncertainly. "Would you like me to help you dress? The Alpha King requests your presence in the council chamber in 1 hour." I nodded, moving to inspect the wardrobe. It had been filled with dresses far finer than anything I'd owned before. Rich fabrics in jewel tones, many embroidered with the royal pax insignia of a wolf with a crown. "These are beautiful," I murmured, running my fingers along a deep blue gown. "The king ordered them made months ago, as soon as the treaty was announced," Mira explained. "He was very specific about the styles and colors." An unexpected warmth bloomed in my chest at the thought of Nathaniel planning for my arrival with such care. I selected the blue dress, and Mira helped me into it. The fit was perfect, as though made from precise measurements. How did he know my size? I wondered aloud. Mira looked uncomfortable. "The Alpha King has his ways, my queen." As she styled my pale blonde hair into an elegant arrangement, I asked, "How long have you served in the castle, Mira?" "Since I was a child," she replied. "My mother was a cook here before she died. The pack takes care of its own." "And what do you think of having a human queen?" I asked directly. Her hands paused in my hair. "It's not my place to have opinions on the Alpha King's decisions. I'd prefer honesty to protocol," I told her. She met my eyes in the mirror. "The older wolves are worried. They say humans can't be trusted, that this treaty is a mistake." She bit her lip. "But the younger ones, we're curious. We've never known anything but conflict with humans. Perhaps change is good." Her candor was refreshing after the veiled comments and diplomatic doublespeak I'd endured my entire life. "And my appearance?" I asked, touching my scarred cheek. "Does it disturb you?" Her expression softened. "No, my queen. Among our kind, scars tell stories. The Alpha King himself bears many." She finished arranging my hair. "Besides, his reaction at the ceremony made it clear how he feels." "What do you mean?" I pressed. Mira's eyes widened. "You don't know? When an alpha looks at someone that way—" Another knock interrupted her, this time at the main door to my chambers. She hurried to answer it, leaving me curious about what she'd been about to reveal. Commander Thorne stood in the doorway, his tall frame nearly filling it. He bowed stiffly. "My queen, I've been instructed to escort you to the council chamber." I rose, smoothing the blue fabric of my gown. "Lead the way, Commander." As we walked through the castle corridors, I noticed servants and guards alike watching me with unconcealed curiosity. Unlike the previous night, I held my head high, refusing to shrink beneath their scrutiny. "You adapt quickly," Thorne observed, breaking the silence between us. "Most humans would be cowering in their chambers after being thrust into a castle full of werewolves." "I'm not most humans," I replied simply. A half smile tugged at his mouth. "Clearly, our king has always had unusual tastes." The comment held an edge I couldn't quite decipher, and I chose not to respond. We continued in silence until we reached a set of double doors, guarded by 2 imposing werewolves in armor. "The queen for the council meeting," Thorne announced. The guards opened the doors, revealing a circular chamber dominated by a massive round table carved from a single piece of ancient oak. Around it sat 12 werewolves of varying ages, all male save for one silver-haired woman whose bearing suggested considerable authority. At the head of the table, Nathaniel stood examining a map spread before him. He looked up as I entered, his amber eyes immediately finding mine. Something flashed across his features, something almost like pleasure, before his expression returned to its usual impassive state. "My wife," he greeted me, extending his hand. "Join us." Aware of every eye in the room tracking my movements, I crossed to his side and placed my hand in his. His fingers closed around mine with gentle pressure, before he guided me to an ornate chair at his right hand. "Council members," he addressed the group. "You all witnessed the ceremony last night. Today we begin integrating Queen Elise into pack matters as agreed in the treaty. The The silver-haired woman spoke first. With respect, Alpha King, is it wise to include a human in discussions of pack security, particularly one with family ties to the human territories? Elder Lydia. Nathaniel's voice held a warning note. My wife's loyalty is now to the pack, as she vowed before you all. He turned to me. Elise. Elder Lydia serves as our keeper of pack law and history. Her concerns, while bluntly stated, reflect the caution that has kept our pack alive for centuries. I met the elder's steely gaze directly. Your concern is understandable, Elder Lydia. I am an outsider here, but I assure you, when I pledged myself to your king and pack, I meant every word. My past life is just that. Past. Pretty words, commented a barrel-chested werewolf with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow. But humans are known for those, and werewolves are known for honoring strength and survival, I countered, touching my scarred cheek purposefully. I've done both. A tense silence followed before Nathaniel broke it with a low chuckle that surprised everyone, myself included. Well said, wife. He addressed the council again. Queen Elise brings valuable perspective and diplomatic training. She stays. His tone brooked no further argument. The meeting proceeded, covering border patrols, disputed hunting territories, and trade negotiations with neighboring packs. I listened carefully, speaking only when directly addressed, or when I had relevant insight to offer. Throughout the meeting, I was acutely aware of Nathaniel beside me. His commanding presence, the respect he commanded from even the most skeptical council members, the occasional brush of his arm against mine that sent inexplicable shivers through my body. As the council adjourned, Elder Lydia approached me while Nathaniel spoke with Commander Thorne across the room. Walk with me, human queen, she said, her tone making it clear this was not a request. I followed her into a small antechamber lined with ancient books and scrolls. Once we were alone, she turned to me with piercing gray eyes. You've been thrust into a world you don't understand, she stated. For your sake and the pack's, you must learn quickly. I intend to, I assured her. Our king is not like other alphas, she continued. His power is exceptional, as is his control. She studied my face. Do you know why he agreed to this treaty marriage? Politics and necessity, I repeated his words from the night before. She made a dismissive sound. Those were factors, yes, but Nathaniel has resisted taking a queen for years despite immense pressure. He could have rejected this treaty or demanded different terms. Her gaze sharpened. Yet he specifically requested you. Shock rendered me momentarily speechless. That's impossible. He'd never even seen me before yesterday. Hadn't he? She challenged. 3 years ago, there was a delegation from your father's territory. A fire in a country estate. Our king was part of the werewolf contingent that assisted with rescue efforts. My legs weakened beneath me as memories flooded back, smoke filling my lungs, searing pain as I tried to reach my mother's room, a shadowy figure pulling me from the flames just as a beam collapsed. I had glimpsed amber eyes before losing consciousness. He was there? I whispered. He saved me? Ask him yourself, Elder Lydia replied. But understand this, nothing our king does is without purpose. She leaned closer. Learn our ways, human queen. Learn about alpha bonds and what it means when one of his power chooses a mate. Before I could question her further, the door opened and Nathaniel himself appeared, his expression darkening as he took in the scene. Elder Lydia. His voice was dangerously soft. I don't recall authorizing a private audience with my wife. Simply offering welcome to our new queen, she replied smoothly, unintimidated by his evident displeasure. Knowledge is protection, after all. She departed with a respectful nod to us both, leaving me alone with Nathaniel and a whirlwind of questions. What did she tell you? He demanded once we were alone. That you were there the night of the fire, I replied, watching his reaction carefully. That you pulled me from the flames. Something vulnerable flickered across his face before disappearing behind his controlled mask. She speaks out of turn. Is it true? I pressed. He turned away, staring at an ancient map on the wall. Yes. Why didn't you tell me? Would it have changed anything? He asked, his back still toward me. Would knowing a werewolf saved you make you feel more kindly toward our kind? Toward this arrangement? It might have, I admitted. At the very least, I would have known you weren't a complete stranger. He turned back, his expression unreadable. There are pack laws about interference in human affairs. My presence there was complicated. Is that why you requested me specifically for this treaty? The question had been burning inside me since Elder Lydia's revelation. His jaw tightened. We should continue your introduction to the castle. He moved toward the door, clearly intending to end the conversation. I stepped in front of him, blocking his path despite the significant difference in our sizes. Nathaniel. I reached for his hand, surprised by my own boldness. Please, I need to understand. Something shifted in his eyes, a battle between restraint and desire that made my heart race. His fingers closed around mine, warm and strong. From the moment I carried you from that fire, he said finally, his voice rough, I knew you were different. Your scent, your courage, even unconscious and gravely injured, you fought to live with a ferocity that... He paused, searching for words. That matched something in me. My breath caught. So the treaty was necessary regardless, he finished. But yes, when negotiations began, I ensured you would be part of the terms. His thumb traced circles on my palm, sending warmth up my arm. I didn't expect you to be told so soon. I wanted time for you to adjust, to learn our ways. What else don't I know? I asked, thinking of Elder Lydia's cryptic warnings about alpha bonds. A shadow crossed his face. Much. But not all truths are for one day, little human. Before I could protest, he brought my hand to his lips and pressed a kiss to my knuckles, a gesture that seemed both courtly and somehow deeply intimate. Tonight, there will be a hunt to celebrate our union, a pack tradition that cannot be ignored. What does that involve? You'll remain here, safe in the castle, he explained. The pack will run under the full moon, bringing down prey to share in a feast afterward. His expression softened slightly. I would prefer to stay with you, but as Alpha, I must lead the hunt. I understand, I said, though part of me was disappointed at the prospect of another night alone with my racing thoughts. Elder Lydia will remain behind to continue your introduction to pack history, he continued. Use the opportunity to learn, but... He hesitated. Be cautious with her. Not all her aims align with mine. And what are your aims, Alpha King? I asked boldly. The corner of his mouth lifted in a half-smile that transformed his severe features. To keep what is mine safe, he replied, and to build something lasting from this union. The possessive words sent a shiver through me. Not of fear, but something else entirely. Something new and fragile and dangerous. I should prepare for tonight, I said, suddenly needing space to process all I'd learned. He nodded, releasing my hand reluctantly. Mira will attend you. I'll see you before the hunt begins. As I made my way back to my chambers, my mind whirled with new revelations. Nathaniel had saved me years ago. He had specifically chosen me for this treaty marriage. And according to Elder Lydia, there was something significant about an alpha bond that I still didn't understand. My hand drifted to the silver locket at my throat, my mother's words echoing in my mind. Beauty lies deeper than skin. Remember that when the world tries to convince you otherwise. Perhaps she had understood more than I realized about finding strength in unexpected places, and about the possibility of being truly seen by someone, scars and all. The preparations for the full moon hunt consumed the castle. Servants hurried through corridors carrying ceremonial attire, while the scent of excitement, a wild electric aroma my human senses could barely detect, permeated the air. I remained in my chambers most of the day, poring over the books Elder Lydia had sent. Ancient texts on pack history and werewolf customs that revealed both fascinating and disturbing aspects of my new home. One passage in particular caught my attention. The alpha's mate carries his strength and weakness alike. Once claimed, the bond cannot be severed save by death, binding two souls across distance, time, and transformation. I was still contemplating these words when Mira arrived to help me dress for the pre-hunt ceremony. You won't participate in the hunt itself, she explained, laying out a gown of midnight blue velvet embroidered with silver thread, but you must bless the hunters before they depart. It's tradition. And what does this blessing entail? I asked nervously. You'll stand beside the Alpha King as he calls the pack to hunt. He'll shift first, then the others will follow. You'll place your hand on his head, his wolf form, and speak the words Elder Lydia will teach you. My heart quickened. I haven't seen him in wolf form yet. Mira paused in arranging my hair. He's magnificent, she said softly. Larger than any wolf in the territory. Pure black with amber eyes, like his human form. She continued pinning my blonde hair into an elaborate updo. Don't show fear when he shifts. The pack will be watching. I'm not afraid of Nathaniel. I realized as I spoke that this was true. Despite his power and occasional ferocity, I had never felt personally threatened by him. Good, Mira replied, because fear has no place beside the Alpha. Once dressed, I studied my reflection in the mirror. The gown highlighted the pale gold of my hair and made my eyes appear a deeper blue. My scarred cheek was clearly visible, but for the first time in 3 years, I didn't immediately look away from it. Nathaniel's words had changed something in me, planted a seed of a different perspective that was slowly taking root. A knock announced Elder Lydia's arrival. She entered without waiting for a response, her silver hair arranged in complex braids adorned with small bone beads. You look appropriate, she assessed, circling me with a critical eye. Now, you must learn the blessing words before moonrise. They must be spoken precisely, and for the next hour, she drilled me on an ancient incantation in the pack language, harsh syllables that felt strange on my tongue. The elder was a demanding teacher, making me repeat each phrase until my pronunciation satisfied her. Why is this blessing so important? I asked during a brief respite. The Queen's blessing ensures a successful hunt and safe return, she explained. It connects the pack's heart, the alpha pair, to its body, the hunters. But I'm not a true alpha female, I pointed out. I'm human. Something calculating flickered in her gray eyes. Perhaps not for long. Before I could question her cryptic statement, another knock came at the door. This time it was Commander Thorne. The Alpha King requests his queen's presence, he announced. The moon rises in half an hour. Elder Lydia gave me one final assessing look. Remember the words, human queen. The pack watches everything. The great courtyard was packed with werewolves when I arrived. They formed a circle around a central space where Nathaniel stood alone, dressed in a simple black tunic and trousers that would be easy to remove before shifting. Torches illuminated the gathering, casting long shadows across the stone ground. A path cleared for me as Thorne led me toward Nathaniel. The pack's collective gaze felt like a physical weight, but I kept my head high, focusing only on the man waiting for me. Nathaniel's expression softened when he saw me, his amber eyes warming in a way that sent heat flooding through my veins. He extended his hand, and I took it, allowing him to guide me to his side. You look beautiful, he murmured, so only I could hear. Thank you, I replied, suddenly shy despite everything we'd already shared. I've been practicing the blessing, he nodded. Elder Lydia is thorough, if nothing else. His grip on my hand tightened slightly. Are you afraid to see me change? No, I answered honestly. I'm curious. A rare smile curved his lips. Good. He turned to address the assembled pack, his voice carrying effortlessly across the courtyard. Tonight we hunt under the full moon, as our ancestors have done for 1,000 years. Tonight, for the first time, we hunt with the blessing of a new queen. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, but no one spoke against him. As Alpha, I run first, Nathaniel continued. As your king, I lead you to glory and sustenance. He released my hand and stepped into the center of the circle. Without ceremony, he pulled his tunic over his head, revealing a torso marked with scars, both old and new. The firelight played across his muscled chest and shoulders, highlighting years of battles survived and won. His eyes found mine once more, holding my gaze as he began to change. It happened faster than I expected. His body contorting, bones cracking and reforming as fur black as midnight erupted from his skin. In seconds, where the man had stood, now crouched a wolf of impossible size, easily reaching my waist on all fours. Gasps escaped from some of the newer pack members, though most watched in reverent silence. The great wolf, Nathaniel, shook himself once, then padded toward me with deliberate steps. Those amber eyes remained the same, intelligent and aware, now set in a lupine face framed by ruffled fur. Elder Lydia appeared at my side. "The blessing," she prompted quietly. I swallowed hard and stepped forward, placing my hand on Nathaniel's massive head as I'd been instructed. His fur was softer than I'd imagined, thick and warm beneath my palm. He leaned into my touch slightly, a gesture so subtle I might have imagined it. The ancient words rose to my lips, and I spoke them as clearly as I could, the guttural sounds of the pack language echoing in the suddenly silent courtyard. By moon and blood, by fang and claw, run strong, hunt true. Return to hearth, to home, to heart. This night belongs to the pack, and the pack to this night. As the final syllable left my lips, Nathaniel threw back his head and howled, a sound so primal and powerful it vibrated through my bones. The pack responded in kind, human voices joining with those already shifted, creating a chorus that echoed off the castle walls and into the night sky. One by one, the werewolves began to shift, clothes discarded as human forms gave way to wolf. Soon the courtyard was filled with wolves of various sizes and colorings, all deferentially keeping their distance from their alpha. Nathaniel looked up at me once more, then butted his head gently against my hand before turning to the pack. With another short howl, he leapt forward, leading the charge through the castle gates and into the forest beyond. The pack followed, a river of fur and muscle flowing into the night. Within moments, they were gone, leaving only those unable or unwilling to hunt. The very old, the very young, and a handful of guards tasked with protecting the castle. "You did well," Elder Lydia commented. The words were correctly spoken. "What happens now?" I asked, still staring at the forest where Nathaniel had disappeared. "Now," she replied, "you wait for their return, and while we wait, there is more for you to learn." Instead of returning to my chambers, the elder led me to a part of the castle I hadn't yet seen. A circular room deep beneath the main structure, its walls covered in paintings depicting werewolf history. At the center stood a raised stone platform. "The first werewolves were created by ancient magic," Elder Lydia explained, gesturing to the oldest paintings. "Humans who gained the ability to take wolf form, becoming something greater than either species alone." I examined the primitive artwork showing human figures transforming beneath a full moon. "How did they gain this ability?" "Through sacrifice and ritual," she said, her voice taking on a rhythmic quality like a storyteller reciting a familiar tale. "The human drank the blood of the wolf the blood of the human, together in death, together in life." Something about her words sent a chill down my spine. "Why are you showing me this?" She moved to the stone platform, running her withered hand over its surface. "This is where the first alpha pair completed their bond, half human, half wolf, stronger together than apart." Her gray eyes fixed on me. "It is where all true matings are consecrated." Nathaniel said the treaty required marriage, not mating. I reminded her, taking an instinctive step back. "He is being cautious," she replied. "The transformation is not without risk for a human. Some do not survive it." My blood ran cold. Transformation? To become a true alpha female, a true mate, requires the change. She gestured to the platform again. "Here, with the proper ritual, you could become like us. Werewolf. Immortal. A queen in truth, not just in name." "Does Nathaniel expect this of me?" I demanded, anger flaring alongside fear. "Expect? No." A new voice joined our conversation. Commander Thorne stepped from the shadows, his russet hair gleaming in the torchlight. "Our king is too honorable to demand such a sacrifice. But desire it?" "Yes." Elder Lydia shot him a warning look. "Commander, you were not invited to this history lesson." "Forgive me, Elder," he replied, not sounding remotely contrite. "I thought our queen might appreciate a more balanced perspective on her situation." I glanced between them, sensing undercurrents I didn't yet understand. "Commander Thorne, why aren't you with the hunting party?" "Someone must guard what the Alpha values most," he answered smoothly. Tonight, that duty falls to me. The commander serves as beta when the alpha is away, Elder Lydia explained, her tone suggesting this was common knowledge I should already possess. And what does the beta think I should know about this ritual? I asked Thorn directly. A smile played at the corners of his mouth. That it binds you irrevocably to our king. That it would make you wolf, yes, but also tie your life force to his. If he dies, you die. If you die... He trailed off significantly. The pack loses its alpha, I finished, understanding dawning. Is that why Nathaniel hasn't mentioned this? Because it would make him vulnerable? Alphas do not acknowledge vulnerability, Elder Lydia stated. But yes, that is likely part of his hesitation. And the rest? Thorn's expression softened unexpectedly. The rest is that he cares for you, human queen. More than he should, perhaps. The risk to you is real. I touched my mother's locket, seeking comfort in its familiar shape. Thank you both for your honesty, I said finally. I have much to consider. Elder Lydia nodded. Consider quickly. The blood moon comes in 3 days, the most powerful time for such a ritual, and the only time this year it could be performed, Thorn added, his tone neutral but his eyes watchful. A distant howl interrupted our conversation. The hunting party returning, Elder Lydia gestured toward the stairway. Come. You must be present when they bring their kill. As we climbed back to the main castle, my mind reeled with new information. Becoming a werewolf hadn't been part of any treaty I'd been told about, yet, according to these two, it was the only way to become a true mate to Nathaniel, the only way to complete the bond he'd apparently begun forming with me years ago when he pulled me from the fire. Why hadn't he told me himself? Was he protecting me, or himself? And why did both Elder Lydia and Commander Thorn seem so invested in my decision? The courtyard had transformed in our absence. A massive bonfire now burned in the center, surrounded by tables laden with food. The hunting party had returned triumphant, bringing down several large stags that were already being prepared by the castle cooks. And there, standing apart from the celebrating pack members, was Nathaniel, back in human form, and dressed in a simple tunic and trousers. His hair was wild from the hunt, his eyes still holding a feral gleam that spoke of his wolf nature just beneath the surface. Those eyes found me immediately as I entered the courtyard. He crossed to me in long strides, seemingly oblivious to the others around us. You're troubled, he said without preamble, searching my face. What has happened? We need to talk, I said quietly, aware of curious eyes watching our interaction. Privately. Something flickered across Nathaniel's face. Concern. Perhaps even guilt. He nodded once and placed his hand at the small of my back, guiding me away from the festivities. The celebration, Elder Lydia began, stepping forward with a frown, will continue without us, Nathaniel finished, his tone brooking no argument. Commander Thorn, see that everyone is fed and comfortable. Thorn bowed, his expression neutral though his eyes held meaning when they met mine. Of course, Alpha King. Nathaniel led me through quiet corridors, until we reached a part of the castle I hadn't yet seen. A small garden enclosed within stone walls, open to the night sky where the full moon bathed everything in silver light. A single ancient oak stood at its center, surrounded by wildflowers that released their fragrance into the cool air. This was my mother's garden, he explained, releasing me once we were alone. No one comes here without my permission. I moved to a stone bench beneath the oak's spreading branches, gathering my thoughts. Nathaniel remained standing, his powerful frame outlined against the moonlight, waiting for me to speak. I know about the ritual, I said finally. The blood moon. The mating bond. His entire body tensed. Lydia, he growled. She had no right. She and Commander Thorn both seemed to think I should know, I interrupted. Were you ever planning to tell me? He paced several steps away, then back, struggling visibly with his composure. Yes. Eventually. When you had adjusted to life here. When you... He faltered. When I what? When you had come to trust me, he finished, his voice rough with emotion. When you might consider it without fear. And what exactly would I be considering? I pressed. Becoming a werewolf? Binding my life to yours permanently? Risking death in the process? He flinched at my blunt recitation. Yes. Why wasn't this in the treaty? I demanded. My father would never have— Your father knows nothing of it, Nathaniel cut in. This goes beyond human politics or diplomatic arrangements. This is pack law, pack magic. Sacred and private. I stood, suddenly too restless to remain seated. You saved me from the fire 3 years ago. You requested me specifically for this arrangement. You had dresses made to my exact measurements months before I arrived. My voice rose with each statement. Was any of this truly about the treaty? Or was it all about this ritual, this bond you've apparently been planning for years? Nathaniel moved with preternatural speed, suddenly before me, his hands gently but firmly gripping my shoulders. Listen to me, Elise. Yes, I sought you out. Yes, I engineered this marriage, but not for power, not for politics. His amber eyes blazed with intensity. From the moment I found you in that burning building, something in me recognized something in you. Your scent called to the deepest part of my wolf nature, the part that recognizes its true mate. My breath caught. What does that mean? His hands slid from my shoulders to cup my face, thumbs brushing my cheeks, both the smooth and the scarred skin, with equal tenderness. It means that in 1,000 years of our pack's history, only a handful of alphas have ever found their true complement, their perfect match in strength and spirit. Most mate for convenience, for political alliance, for continuation of bloodlines. His voice dropped lower. I never expected to find mine. Certainly not in a human woman. The raw honesty in his voice made my heart race. So, when you pulled me from the fire— I knew, he confirmed. But you were badly injured, unconscious. When you recovered, the conflict between our peoples had worsened. There was no way to approach you, to explain. His jaw tightened. Then the treaty negotiations began, and I saw my opportunity. I pulled away from his touch, needing space to think. You should have told me all this immediately. And what would you have done? He challenged. A scarred human woman suddenly told by a werewolf king that fate had bound them together, that she was destined to become something other than human? His expression softened. I wanted you to know me first. To see that I am more than the monster humans believe werewolves to be. I never thought you were a monster, I said quietly. Didn't you? His smile was sad. Your fear when you arrived was palpable, Elise. I could smell it on your skin. That was fear of rejection, not of you, I admitted. Fear of what would happen when you saw my face. Understanding dawned in his eyes. And instead, you found the one man who sees your scars as marks of courage. He stepped closer again, more cautiously this time. Perhaps we've both been hidden behind our assumptions. I touched my mother's locket, seeking her wisdom across the years. What happens if I refuse the ritual? Can we simply continue as we are, husband and wife by treaty? Something like pain crossed his features. Yes. The treaty stands regardless. I would never force this choice upon you. He hesitated. But there are consequences you should understand. Tell me. He gestured for me to sit again, then joined me on the stone bench, maintaining a careful distance between us. Without the completed bond, I will gradually weaken. Not immediately, not catastrophically, but over years. An alpha without his true mate never reaches his full potential. And the pack? I asked, suspecting I already knew the answer. Will eventually sense my diminished strength, he acknowledged. Challenges would come. Instability. Possibly war with neighboring packs who perceive weakness. The pieces suddenly aligned in my mind. That's why Elder Lydia and Commander Thorne are so interested in my decision. They're protecting the pack's future. In their way, Nathaniel agreed. Though I suspect their motivations aren't entirely aligned with each other. Thorne has ambitions of his own. I considered this new revelation. And if I agree, if the ritual succeeds, his eyes gleamed with something primal and possessive, then we would truly be alpha pair. Your strength would flow into mine, mine into yours. You would gain the wolf's form, longevity, heightened senses. His voice roughened, and we would be bound together until death. And if it fails? His expression darkened. Then you die. And I would follow soon after, unable to survive the broken bond. The weight of the decision pressed down on me like a physical force. 3 days until the blood moon, I murmured. Yes. He reached for my hand, enveloping it in his much larger one. Elise, whatever you decide, know this. What began as political maneuvering has become something else entirely for me. When I lifted your veil and truly saw you for the first time, your courage, your dignity despite your fear, I knew I had been right 3 years ago. Right about what? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. That you were meant to be mine, he said simply. Not as a possession, but as my equal, my balance. I thought of the words in the ancient text. The alpha's mate carries his strength and weakness alike. The magnitude of what he was offering and asking was overwhelming. I need time, I said finally. To think. Of course. He brought my hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to my knuckles. But there's something else you should know. His eyes held mine intently. The fire that scarred you was no accident. Cold shock washed through me. What? It was set deliberately. By those who opposed peace between our peoples, he explained, his expression grim. Your mother's death, your injuries, they were meant to sabotage diplomatic relations. How do you know this? I demanded, memories of that terrible night flooding back. We captured one of the conspirators last month, he said, a werewolf working with human extremists. He confessed under interrogation. Grief and rage swirled within me. Grief for my mother, rage at those who had taken her from me. Why tell me this now? Because the threat remains, Nathaniel replied, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. Both to the peace we're building and to you personally. As a human queen, you're vulnerable. As my true mate, you would have the strength to defend yourself and our future together. I pulled my hand away, suddenly angry. So now it's about protection? Another reason I should agree to this ritual? It's about truth, he countered. All of it, the danger, yes, but also what lies between us. He stood, moonlight silvering his dark hair. You asked for time to think. Take it. But remember that some choices come only once in a lifetime. He turned to leave, then paused. Join me at the celebration when you're ready. The pack will expect to see us together tonight. After he departed, I remained in the moonlit garden, my thoughts in turmoil. The revelation about my mother's death had reopened wounds I thought long healed, and Nathaniel's confession about our connection complicated everything I thought I understood about our arrangement. I touched my scarred cheek, remembering his words at our first meeting. These marks tell me you are a survivor. Was I strong enough to survive another transformation? Not of flesh this time, but of my very nature, and was what I felt for Nathaniel, this strange, growing connection, enough to justify such an irrevocable choice. My mother's locket seemed heavier than usual against my skin. I opened it, looking at the pressed violet within. Beauty lies deeper than skin, she had said. Perhaps she had been speaking not just of appearance, but of the beauty found in courage, in choice, in sacrifice for something greater than oneself. When I finally returned to the courtyard, the celebration was in full swing. Pack members danced around the bonfire, some still in wolf form, others human. The scent of roasted meat filled the air, along with music from drums and flutes. Nathaniel stood apart, watching the festivities with the slightly detached air of a ruler responsible for all he surveyed. His posture straightened when he saw me approach, his amber eyes warming. You came, he said simply. I said I would. I stood beside him, observing the celebration. Is it always like this after a hunt? The full moon heightens emotions, he explained. Joy, aggression, hunger. His gaze dropped to my lips momentarily. Desire. Heat bloomed in my chest at his words. I see. Elder Lydia approached, her expression carefully neutral. The pack would be honored if their alpha and queen would join the moonlight dance. I tensed, looking to Nathaniel. I don't know the steps. Just follow my lead, he murmured, offering his hand. The crowd parted as we moved toward the bonfire. The music shifted to a primal rhythm that seemed to match the beating of my heart. Nathaniel's hand at my waist was firm yet gentle as he guided me through the steps of what appeared to be a traditional pack dance, bodies circling each other, coming together then apart in a pattern as old as the moon above us. As we danced, I became aware of a subtle change in the atmosphere. The pack members watched us with growing approval, their earlier skepticism fading as they witnessed the harmony in our movements. "They're accepting you," Nathaniel whispered in my ear as we turned. "They sense what I've known from the beginning." "And what's that?" I asked breathlessly. His hold tightened slightly. "That you belong here, with us, with me." The dance ended with partners standing face to face, hands joined. Nathaniel's eyes glowed with reflected firelight as he gazed down at me. "I have my answer," I said quietly, the decision crystallizing in that moment. His breath caught. "So soon?" "Some choices come only once in a lifetime," I echoed his earlier words. "I choose this one. I choose you." For the first time since I'd met him, Nathaniel's controlled facade cracked completely. Wonder, joy, and fierce possessiveness flashed across his features, before he pulled me against him, claiming my mouth with his in a kiss that left no doubt about the strength of his feelings. The pack erupted in howls of approval around us, but I was aware only of Nathaniel, his arms encircling me, his heartbeat thundering against mine, his scent enveloping me like a promise of protection and passion both. When he finally broke the kiss, he rested his forehead against mine. 3 days, he murmured. 3 days until you truly become my queen in every way. I'm afraid, I admitted, allowing him to see my vulnerability. I know. His thumb traced my scarred cheek with infinite tenderness. But you faced fire before and emerged stronger. We will face this together. In that moment, surrounded by creatures I had once feared, held by a man I was only beginning to understand, I realized that my mother had been right all along. Beauty lay deeper than skin, in courage, in connection, in the willingness to transform oneself for love. The Alpha King had lifted my veil and stood frozen not from horror, but from recognition. And now I stood at the threshold of a new life, scarred but unbroken, human, but soon to be something more. As Nathaniel led me in another dance beneath the full moon, I knew with certainty that whatever pain the transformation might bring, it would be worth it to truly belong, to him, to the pack, and finally, completely to myself.